Situation that is similar triangles, you may not recognize it, but it is. It's this situation. If you have a triangle and you have another line drawn in the triangle that is parallel to one of the sides, you have created similar triangles. You may remember that from geometry, you may not. So here's the fact that DE and AB are parallel, which means I have created similar triangles. Where are those triangles? Well, let's separate them out. There's the little triangle. There's the big triangle. Those two triangles are similar. Now, how do I know they are similar? Well, I can grab hold of this one, slide it over, and you can see that those angles are equal. Those upper angles are equal. Those two lower angles are equal. So we've just seen that we have three pairs of angles that are equal, and therefore those are similar triangles. Now, you don't have that luxury to move things around. So let's see what angles we have. We would have this angle and this angle equal because those are both angle C. What other angles do we have equal? Well, you see this and this. Do you remember that those are corresponding angles? So that's this and this. And what I need to show is two pairs of equal angles, and I've got them. That tells me that these two triangles are similar. Now, are you able to, from here, just use the numbers? Well, let's see, 12 went with this, and this is 3, and this over here is 8, and we are looking for the length. This is B. We're looking for this length. I will call that X. So do you see the proportion to set up? The proportion would be 3 over 8 equals 12 over X. And be sure when you set up this proportion, 3 came from the triangle on the right, 12 comes from the triangle on the right. Don't do 3 over 8 equals X over 12. You have to be consistent. 3 and X are not together in the same triangle. 3 and 12 are together in the same triangle. And then you can cross multiply and solve. 3X equals 96, divide by 3, and X is 32. So we did this kind of visually. We were able to see what numbers landed on what numbers, but if you're not able to do that right off the top, then here's my two separated triangles. Here's everything labeled out letter-wise, and if you need to, you can write out the two triangle congruencies. And the triangle congruencies would be ABC, which I just wrote in alphabetical order. We know A corresponds with E, we know B goes with D, and C, of course, goes with itself. Write out the proportions in letters. AB goes with ED, BC goes with DC, and AC goes with EC, and start filling in your numbers. AB is 8, ED was 3, BC is what we're looking for, and DC is 12. And that is the same proportion I had on the last screen. It's just upside down. It will give me the same cross product. Now we're into Pythagorean theorem that you might remember from high school. Pythagorean theorem only works on a right triangle. And when you have a right triangle, you have two legs, and the legs are the sides that are surrounding the box. You have a hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the side opposite the box. It is the longest side in the right triangle. So Pythagorean theorem says if you have these labels A, B, C, and A and B are interchangeable. This could have been B and this could have been A. No big deal there, but C has to be on the hypotenuse. So Pythagorean theorem says this: A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So if I want to find C, I need to plug this information into the Pythagorean theorem. I'm going to call this A. I'm going to call this one B, although I could have had them swapped. So this is 9 squared plus 12 squared equals C squared. 9 squared is 81. 12 squared is 144 equals C squared. Add these up is 225 equals C squared. Do you remember how to undo squared? To undo squared, we do the opposite of squaring, which is square root. So the square root of 225 is 15, so we have found out that C is 15 feet. A word problem dealing with Pythagorean theorem. It says a wheelchair ramp with a length of 122 inches. So I know a ramp is going to go up at some sort of angle. Has a length of 122 inches. has a horizontal distance of 120 inches. That's this, is 120 inches. What is the ramp's vertical distance? That means I'm looking for this. This is A, this is B, and this is C. So Pythagorean says A squared plus B squared equals C squared. In this one, I don't know what A is, so A has to stay A. B is 120 squared, and C is 122 squared. So to do this arithmetic, A squared stays A squared, 120 squared is 14,400, 122 squared is 14,884, and then I have an equation to solve. To get the A squared alone, I must subtract 14,400 from both sides. We have A squared. What we get over here is 484. Take the square root of both sides, and A is 22, and it's inches, because that's the unit they gave us. Now, two things can happen when you take the square root. Sometimes it comes out even, sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't come out even, it may ask you to round to the tenths place or the hundredths place. It may say write your answer with a simplified radical, so just pay attention to the directions. This asks us to use similar triangles to solve. We have a person who's 5 feet tall, is standing 70 feet from the base of a tree, and the tree casts a 70-foot shadow. The shadow is always along the ground. That's where the shadow is. What is the height of the tree? We actually have similar triangles here because this is like this problem right here with our parallel sides. So I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going to separate this out. I have this triangle. I have this triangle. Let's move them over here so I have some room. Let's label these. This was 7. This was the 5-foot tall person. Now, this piece is 70. This piece is 7. This is the whole piece, which is 77 feet. And we're looking for the height of the tree, which is this right here. So my proportion is x over 5, because those are the corresponding sides, equals 77 over 7, because those are the corresponding sides. Of course, I could have this totally upside down. It could be 5 over x equals 7 over 77. You can cross multiply right there. I'm going to reduce this out a little to make the arithmetic easier. I know 77 divided by 7 is 11. It's 11 over 1. Cross multiply, and we get x equals 55 feet. So this tree is 55 feet tall. This says a rectangular garden bed, there's my rectangular bed, measures 20 feet by 15 feet. A water faucet is located at one corner of the garden bed, and a hose will be connected to the faucet. The hose must be long enough to reach the opposite corner of the garden. So I'm looking for that length right there. Well, what you have is a right triangle. This makes my right triangle. I do need to remember that if I'm dealing with a rectangle, if this is 20 feet, this is 20 feet. So this is just simply a right triangle where this side is 15, this side is 20, and we are looking for x. Pythagorean tells me a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I do have a and b, so instead of x here, I really should have said c. So we're looking at 15 squared plus 20 squared equals c squared. 15 squared is 225. 20 squared is 400. Add those up is 625. To undo c squared, we will take the square root of both sides, and this one also happens to come out even, and that is 25 feet.